Hello, everyone, and welcome to Three Coaches, One Topic. And tonight I am joined by Liz and Wendy, and I'm super happy because these two have been such a support to me and have so much wisdom that, I know they're going to share a lot of insights, especially regarding this topic. But before we start on that, I'm going to hand over to Liz and let Liz introduce herself and tell you where she's dialing in from and a little bit about her coaching business.
Thank you, Donna. So
Cool.
I'm Liz Cressy, and my business is Legacy of Growth. I'm located here in the Green Mountain state of Vermont in the US, Northeast. And I am a life and small business coach. And yeah, I'm super into the art of acceptance and moving forward with your growth and all of that. So I'm super happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. No, and I love you. Are you still having the your name? What's your business name?
Legacy of Growth.
Yes, love that name. Really, really do. And Wendy, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're dialing in from.
Yeah, well, I'm sitting in the sandpit of Dubai. Summer is coming, so it's getting nice and humid here. Yeah, I'm an embraining trainer and coach, and I'm also a trainer of NLP. So I bounce between training and also coaching as well. So I love doing groups and also one-on-one coaching at all levels and with organizations and with teams. So yeah, that's what I love to do.
Yes, and you sparkle throughout it all, which I love. And you bring people together, and we have a lot of laughs, a lot of learnings. So yeah, no, that's great. In fact, you've been on a couple of times this month, so people will start to get to know you quite well. Okay, so my name's Donna Burfield. I'm a Joy and Purpose coach, well, the founder of Joy and Purpose Coaching, and I work with parents building on their relationships with themselves, their partners, and their children. A lot of that comes from 26 years of being a teacher from Montessori to secondary learning support, and also being a single parent myself, a working parent throughout it all. And I also run a group here called Coaches Supporting Coaches, which is going international very, very shortly, which I'm very, very excited about. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Right, let's get on to today's subject, because I have been super excited about this one, because I think this is it's fundamental for how purposeful and meaningful our lives can be. So today's topic is building healthy relationships, the art of connection. So, as always, I'd love to hear your ideas of when that title came up, what came up personally for you, rather than you as a coach.
So I would say that healthy relationships are, you just can't get away from a relationship, right? You have a relationship with self, you have a relationship with the people you live with, your family, extended family, immediate family, friends, the guy at the deli. It just, whenever you interact with somebody, that's creating a relationship. So having a healthy relationship is important. It's about the interaction. And I know I've walked away from a few in my life where I wish they had gone better. And I always find it comes back to me and my relationship with myself and how I fit into the world and how I show up then with others.
Absolutely. And Wendy, what came up for you?
You're going to love this one. When we talk about relationships, there is no such thing as a relationship. It's two people relating, two or more people relating. So, I often ask, have you ever been in a bad relationship? And they go, yeah. But when you put it back into, well, you're part of this relationship, how were you relating badly, and put the ownership back on us as individuals, because a relationship is whatever we create it to be. So how are we sort of actively participating or not? So
Agreed.
yeah, there's an ing for you, Donna.
Yes.
Which ing?
Which ing? Yeah, because look, the first time I heard about this and putting it back onto yourself, what's your ownership? And I can see people that have been in really abusive relationships. Now, it doesn't have to be a personal romantic relationship. It can be with work or what have you. And I'm thinking, to take that on board, what have I gone, where have I gone wrong? What have I done? Can be quite a hard pill to swallow. However, it's, if you reframe that and say, what behaviors have I allowed, and how have I allowed other people to treat me? So,
yeah, for sure. It's how we create our boundaries. We set up the rules. How we allow people to treat us in a relationship. If we allow it, then we're saying it's okay. If we don't sort of say, actually, that's not acceptable for me, then we're not creating our boundaries and keeping us in a safe space and aligned to what's important to us. Yeah.
100% true. And I think in addition to that, how we feel about ourselves, how we I don't know how else to say this, but I'll give you an example. So if I'm feeling really not confident, if I'm feeling less than, if I'm feeling like I don't measure up to the people in the room or the person that I'm relating to, or I'm going to show up differently, and my boundaries are going to be different. And I think being able to put those boundaries down means that you need to have a good sense of who you are, truly who you are, not the thoughts in your head about who you are, but just to really know how you show up in this world, I guess, is the way I want to say that. Sorry,
Yeah.
I had two crossing thoughts and they didn't work out very well.
No, but it's true. Also, sometimes it's a form of punishing ourselves.
Oh,
And we're back.
I'm sorry.
Oh no! What happened?
I don't know, but now that's
And Wendy's gone. She'll come back. I don't know what happened. It literally just crashed.
I have no idea. I must have said something really witty and it just stopped.
Okay. Yeah, no, what I was going to say is about being in a narcissistic relationship, that if that person has that ability to pick you up at one point and then to drop you at another, and if that's consistent, it is like that Chinese water torture. So how do you get yourself back from that?
I think it's about turning the focus inward. And I feel like I'm starting to sound super self-absorbed, but I've learned that having some challenging relationships in my own life, when I've looked at my part with that and I've become more comfortable with who I am and I don't listen to the other person, and I can it's so hard because you constantly hear negative things about yourself from the people around you, that it's hard not to take that as truth. But when you argue that point with yourself and you show, proof that you are the person that you believe yourself to be, not the person that they're coming up with.
Mm.
In my relationships, and I can't say I've ever dealt with a diagnosed narcissist, but there are some that have super heavy narcissistic tendencies around me. I show up differently with them, and then they back down. And when they say things to me, I don't take it in the same light.
Mm.
So it doesn't affect that relationship with me. The relationship with them, it gets a little rocky initially. And then they kind of figure that okay, I can't push those buttons anymore. So yeah, it's a dance. Sometimes it's a mosh pit and sometimes it's a waltz.
Yeah, exactly. But I think also what we all said before, it depends on the state we're in at the moment. So what we allow, is the behavior that we get back. And then when you are in a more stable state and you value your worth and you start having those boundaries and putting that self-respect back into place, that's then when the narcissist doesn't like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was just saying, Wendy, about what can you do when you're in a relationship. It could be with a romantic relationship with regards to your partner, or it could be your boss. When you find yourself in there, what do you do, and what are the signs?
For me, I remember a time when my boss changed, and my new boss, I admired the results he got, and I was really excited to be working with him. But when he joined, I was busy. I was out of the property at the time. So when I came back and thinking, okay, and I realized that how he got his results was very different to my approach. And I just realized that we've got a different values going on here. There was a clash. And my gut was screaming at me, and it was just like I felt sick driving to work in the mornings, and I thought I just need to leave. So looking back on it, it was just we were two different people. How we got results was very different, and I don't think it impacted the respect that I had for him, but it just wasn't my way of working. So I needed to remove myself from that environment. So,
yeah, I have to agree. I've left jobs because my respect for the way my bosses have treated other people, whether it's been underhanded or backhanded in some cases. And I thought, if I stay here, I mean, I'm the sort of person that will speak up, and that didn't go down very well because they didn't want to hear it. And there was a hierarchy, and it's just like, who the hell are you to bring this to our attention? You're dispensable. And it was a case of, okay, well then I'm going, because I'm not going to be a party to this.
I think if you're not feeling valued in the role, or if there is an issue with the communication between you, I do believe that people leave people rather than they don't leave a company necessarily. It's usually because of the people or the culture.
Well, it was a combination of the two. I think it was the people, and then when you went to the head of the organization and you said, this is what's happening, and they're not prepared. Well, I love how you've got your vision and mission statement up on the wall, and you walk through all the high profile people through the school, all puffed up like what have you, and you're not abiding by that. So that's double standards. And I don't want to promote that. I don't want to be part of that culture. So what about you, Liz? Have you seen that in the workplace?
Oh, yes. Definitely. And I think both of you are spot on. It is about the people and the culture. I will say that the the company, meaning like the higher management, sets the tone, and I have a challenge with that. But it's always a choice, right? As
Mm.
I have a choice to stay and put up with it, knowing what I'm putting up with, or as you know, as you both have said, you have a choice to remove yourself from that.
Mm.
And I don't. It's interesting to see how people relate to one another, and just in my own relationships with, I'm not sure they realize how much choice they do have,
Mm.
and the lack of responsibility in that people don't take or take. I don't know how to say that. The fact that people don't take responsibility is what I'm trying to say for their own actions, and how they come into that situation or that culture or the company, the relationship, whatever that is. I'm not responsible for how you behave. I'm only
Yeah.
responsible for how I behave. And and you are not responsible for how I react to your behavior, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think people need to step up.
Mm.
I agree. I mean, there's not enough ownership and taking, responsibility and accountability for your actions at the end
And
of the day.
Donna, I know you have teenagers. Wendy, I'm not sure if you do, but if you have teenagers or young 20 somethings, oh, they don't know anything about responsibility.
Well, I have to say, that's one thing that I was very conscious of with my children as they were growing up, and I did make sure they took responsibility for their actions. I said, I love you dearly. However, I am a woman. I'm a human being. There's lines. This is how, these are my values. These are my expectations. And, if you overstep them,
Of course,
then
yeah.
then there's repercussions. In fact, we were watching we were watching like a police show, and some mother went to the police and sort of like told the police about her son had committed a crime. Both my boys looked at me and went, "You'd do that?" So, damn right I would.
Yeah.
Just don't commit a crime like that. But joking aside, so yeah. So okay. So what do you think the fundamental um, things to have in place for a healthy relationship? What do you think we should be aware of?
Authenticity and communication. I think when we try to be something that we think the other person wants, it makes very difficult relationship, and to be
Mm-hmm.
able to have that communication. It brings to mind that Cooley quote: "I'm not what I think you think. I'm not what I think you think I am. I am what I think." No, wait, I'm not what I don't remember, but it's like I'm not what you think. I am what I think I am, not what you think I am. Very
I'll
confusing.
find it. I'll put it in the comment
Yeah,
section.
it's a fantastic quote, and I'm kicking myself right now because it was on the top of my tongue.
Yeah. So yeah, authenticity, absolutely, and how we communicate. Wendy, what else do you have to add to that?
I think it's number one, I'd say rapport. It's something that happens naturally when you naturally like each other. And respect for difference, respect for other people's model of the world. For me, it's curiosity.
Yeah.
I love getting to know people. I'm curious about them. Sort of, where are they coming from? What's important to them? What lights them up? What excites them? So it's finding, if you think about when you connect with somebody, there's something there that is the very basis, the beginning of trust and that curiosity and wanting to get to know each other.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you know what I always find fascinating, and I'm very aware of? Maybe it's my age that has got me to that point of curiosity as well, is with regards to when we start a new relationship or we join a community or start a new job, is to be aware of how we are behaving and how we are relating to people. Too many times you'll hear in each circumstance what they've allowed, behaviors from other people they've accepted and allowed, and then over time they're now annoying or encroaching on their personal time. And it's just like, well, okay, so maybe before you enter these new relationships, you need to take stock and be aware, is this something that I truly am happy with and can accept long term?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I've been a member of BNI since 2010, so Business Network International. So I meet a lot of people, and I'm also heavily involved with training them now. And so I'm meeting a lot of people, and not all of them are going to be my kind of people. Yeah. But you've got to sort of get to know a little bit about them. It doesn't stop you being polite and friendly. But then be selective as well. You know, there's 1,000 members. I can't get to know all of them. So it's cherry pick, and you pick the people that you feel there's some sort of similarity, or you have something in common, or there's an interest, or they laugh at your joke, or, you know, it's those little things. It's sensory acuity. You notice how people respond to you. But yeah, the ones that come up and just push their business card on me, it's like, okay, no, thank you, no, thank you. Yeah, you're not my tribe.
No, you're not my tribe.
Well, I think you can tell when somebody has an agenda. That's not true. Like, that's not just to be, right? If I'm coming to you with a specific outcome in mind, and you're not aware of what that is, I think it really does affect how you're going to relate to them, and the vibe that you feel off of them. And to your point, Donna, we do teach people how to treat us. So if we allow that overstepping all the time, then understand 10 years down the road, 3 years down the road, 4 days down the road, if it's on our nerves, it's because we've allowed that. And that's when we have to step up and say, hey, appreciate it, but this just isn't working for me anymore. And I think we're afraid to do that as people.
Rejection. A lot of people are afraid of that rejection.
But they'll also put up with like the perceived embarrassment for the other person. I know, and in my life, and I talk a lot about my kids because they're in their 20s and they're all very different, and there are 4 of them, and so they're like a sociology study in my house. But they will put up with something long after it's worn its welcome out for them, because they're afraid of making the other person look bad or embarrassing them. Or if I tell you that, gee, Donna, I really don't like the way you said this, it really affected me. Well, that might make you embarrassed for saying that, so I'm not going to stand up for myself in there. I'm just going to keep putting up with it. And then it degrades what could be a great relationship.
Yeah, but all this is learned from in the family as a child growing up, and from school, of how teachers get you to conflict resolutions and stuff, stop tittle-tattling, or stop telling on this person, and then other children pick on them for telling the truth or for standing up for somebody. So I mean, there's so many dynamics here.
Yeah. And I don't think we've done a good job at least not here in the States, in our schools, teaching interpersonal relationships and how to create healthy boundaries, and how to have a good relationship with yourself. We just assume that that's, oh, you're here, it must be fine.
I'm sure the pandemic hasn't helped at all. That whole isolation, and when they need to be learning their social skills. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, so something came to mind when you were talking just a second ago, and I now lost it. If I think of it, I'll bring it back in. So what effect would you say? Now, you could talk about personal experiences or any experiences that maybe you've had with your clients. Has relationships had an impact on their personal and professional well-being?
I can think of, I think it was my first executive coaching client. He hired me because he wanted to improve as a leader. He just had a 360 feedback or whatever. So, getting a coach was important for him. But over the sessions, we worked on everything but work stuff. It was the home, the family, the in-laws, his health, his fitness, and I think we got to week 7, and it's like, well, or the 7th session, and I checked in and said, look, how are things going? Because you said you wanted in terms of leadership. He said, well, because everything's so much better in other areas of my life, of course it's better at work. So I think just having that awareness that, your personal relationships, as much as we try to leave our personal life, outside of the office door, it does impact us. So if one area of our life we're struggling, what's the overflow of that into how you're showing up? Yeah, I thought that was an interesting one.
Yeah, agreed. What a great example. And to drive that point home, because it does affect what happens internally, what happens in in our 3-foot world, definitely affects what happens outside of that. And you are going to take that into the workforce or into the community. And if you're not feeling good that day, you're not going to show up in a great way, and all of your interactions are going to suffer. So I think there's definite examples all over the place. I mean, you stub your toe getting out of bed in the morning, and then you make a decision that your whole day is crap because, look at how it started, and then it just degrades from there. And I think you take that everywhere.
Don't you affirm it? How many people have turned around and said, I knew this morning when I woke up, it was going to be a bad day, and look at this, this happened. Well, you ain't going to have a nice day if you carry on with that attitude,
Yeah, absolutely.
So where was the gift in that? But
that falls into people as well, though, Donna. It comes down to your first impressions, or if you're having a bad day, what are you picking up on? So if you're not feeling great and everything's going wrong, you're picking up on the negatives.
Yeah.
So you'll notice the negative about this person, they do something else. So you end up sort of gathering all of this evidence that they're not your kind of people, or not to spend time with them. We make a lot of judgments on people based on how we're feeling. So I think it's key. It's key.
That's my big wake-up call. I know when I'm in a bad place is when everybody starts pissing me off. I was like, they're annoying me, and that's not me. And so when I feel that, I'm like, well, hold on a second. What do I need to look internally? Why am I in this state? What do I need? That is a great trigger for me to take stock and pause.
And it's a beautiful thing that you're able to do that. And I mean, I know for myself, getting into the coaching world and getting into the personal growth and personal development world has allowed me to see some of that in myself. And I can't say I've seen it all, because sometimes our nose is pushed too far against that the television screen to see the whole picture. But it really does all come back to knowing ourselves and being in tune to how are we feeling, and how, when you start to get that little um that little like annoying tap on your forehead because somebody's starting to say something or is saying something, and it's not sitting well with you.
Yeah.
The question then has to be like, okay, wait, am I upset with what they're saying to me? And why is that? Or am I upset from something and I'm hearing it in a different way? Because to your point, Wendy, you and I could be talking with Donna at the same time. And if I'm having a crappy day and you're having a great day, she's going to show up differently for both of us, even though she's doing the exact same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, Liz, what you say there about when people are saying something and we start to disagree with them, I think that is our responsibility to rather, we can all have different opinions, we can all have different beliefs, we can all have different models of the world, but how we respond to people, and people fall out a lot. And it's usually because we have different beliefs or we have different values. So it's almost like we need to bring in that curiosity. So, when I find myself disagreeing with people, I get curious and think, oh, what would their perception of the world or their perception of this, what would they have to believe about it for them to think this is true?
Yeah.
So it's almost like, well, how can I be curious about if they're saying something, how could that be right for them? So yeah, and I think in coaching particularly, it's not about us. It's not about us at all. So having that, well, what makes you say that? And having that curiosity to dig underneath and find out sort of more information is key.
Yeah, and that's good as coaches that we can do that for our clients. Sometimes it's hard for us to do it to ourselves when you're in the moment. The bills need paying, this is happening, the kids are, the car's broken down, we don't have any AC. When you're in that state, it's hard to be curious and mindful about, I wonder what you don't care.
Absolutely. Yeah. If we're not in a great space, we shouldn't coach.
Well, and that is true. But as coaches and just as people in general, to understand that nobody wakes up going, I'm going to have a crappy day and I'm going to make sure everybody else does too.
Yeah.
Like we all come to our experience, I believe, with some sort of a good intention. And whether it translates that way to other people or even myself, I might not know in the moment what that, that good intent is. We don't strive to screw things up. We really don't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so what I want to know, well, I'm curious about, is in relationships, with regards to our little toolkit, our survival toolkit that will help us, take that pause and reframe the situation. Does that differ for, say, like if you're dealing with the in-laws, dealing with your parents, dealing with somebody at work? What kind of state or suggestions can you give that will help people in those situations?
So when there is a difference of opinion where you feel that,
like as a person, if my boss says something, I can maybe handle what they're saying and come about it from a different angle. But excuse me, if it's my in-law or my parents or my friend, I will handle it differently. So what tools would help people take stock and go, well, hold on a second. If that was somebody else that was saying that, you would have handled it differently. Just because it's this person, you're not.
That's the meaning that we give it, right? The meaning that we give the person, the relationship. So if you told me to, go pound sand, I might take that differently than if the mailman told me to go pound sand, because I'm going to think that you are speaking to a different part of me, like, oh, you know me, you've known me for years, or you have a close relationship with me, then you must be there must be truth in that. And I think that understanding that the who it's coming from
Yeah.
and the meaning that I give that person and what they're saying to me, I need to take a moment and get curious and be like, okay, why is this affecting me like this? Because if it was some guy in the grocery store line or some gal in the grocery store line, it wouldn't affect me that way. So what am
Yeah.
I hearing? And I think it's, back to the curiosity, and I think it's all about meaning.
Yeah, for me, I believe that all behaviour has a positive intention. So, what's the positive intention behind that behaviour or that comment?
Yeah.
I think we push back or we argue more with, the people closest to us because we can,
Yeah.
and we have a different relationship with them. If it's your boss, you've got a professional relationship with them. If it's your mum or your partner or your kids, then we all have our moments where it's just like, oh, mutter tot sigh, and we want to moan and groan, or we even want to blame. Yeah, and it's just us not responding well
Yeah.
to that situation.
Yeah.
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 I hear it a lot with parents when I keep on calling them outlaws, so I'm really sorry, but when the in-laws come and they get nervous and go, oh, I'm not going to be able to do anything right, they're always going to pick on, and so I'm not looking after their son well enough, I'm not treating the children well enough, and automatically they're coming from a negative space and they're on the defensive, so it is about having that awareness and going, okay, so as you said, where are they coming from? How am I showing up to this conversation straight away? So, okay, let's talk about NLP, because you both practice NLP. Wendy, you're a trainer, and there are some specific tools that are very, very helpful with regards to this. I'm going to throw it over to you two to share some of these pretty powerful tools.
Yeah, go for it, Wendy.
Okay, I'd say one of the nice ones for relationships is how can you use in NLP we have the agreement frame. So if I were to say, yeah, Donna, I agree with what you're saying, but, and then that word but has just negated everything I say. So this is where, we can push back on people almost. So if you delete the word but and use the word and. So I agree with what you're saying, and here's another opinion or another suggestion or a different perspective. So I'd also say the rapport. When we disagree with somebody, we break rapport. We'll push back, we'll cross our arms, we will break rapport. It's a natural thing to do because, when I agree with you, we have a deep level of rapport, but when I disagree, it's no. So it's continue to match and mirror rapport. But also notice when the other person breaks rapport and you do the same thing as well.
Yeah, those are two super powerful ones. It also brought to mind, and it may not be possible in the immediate, but having had conversation with clients and friends, and a lot of times they go back and revisit, myself too, interactions with people. I think being able to jump into the positioning and really step into the second position, which first position would be me, and second position would be me looking at everything through your eyes, not just in your shoes, but like, what are you thinking and what's going on in your life and what's going on in your world for you to think this way or for you to say something like this. So being able to kind of step into that. And then there's also 3 and 4, but being the fly on the wall. So as they say, there's three truths to everything: mine, yours, and what really happened.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of getting into it and trying as hard as I can not to bring my own beliefs and understandings and put them on you and then try to understand, but really try to understand from your world perspective why you feel that way. And I think that's a great exercise to do, especially if you're having a long-term challenge more than just one conversation with someone, is to really understand how they're showing up and why.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Can you think of any sort of examples with yourselves where you've taken that step back and you're really glad you took that step back?
Oh, I do it all the time.
Driving down St. Giles Road.
Yeah.
Take a step
Hang
back.
on a minute. I'll go back to the back seat so I can get a better perspective. No, but yeah, doing perceptual positions. I know working with one client, he just come from a meeting and he arrived pretty stressed and a bit upset. And there were 5 people in that meeting, and we ended up. I had him literally bouncing down the sofa, sort of associating into each of those people to see things differently from their perspective. And, when we came to the observer position, he was looking back, he said, they've got no choice. If he doesn't stop, they're going to have to fire him. And he's talking about himself. So at the end of the session, she said, thanks, Wendy. He said, I'm going to change my behaviour. And it's like, well, how impactful was that for him? But to just have those different perspectives and to be able to make the time and space to explore it.
Yeah, that's a powerful example.
Mm.
For me, I would say the best personal example was a relationship I have with my stepdaughter, and years of this all the time. And it was to the point where she would walk in the room and I would immediately flare up with anger. She wouldn't even said anything yet. And I actually had a coaching session of my own with someone. And when I did a bit of that positioning and understanding everything that she's been through in her life, and looking then kind of as a third person, that observer position, I realized that it didn't matter what she said. The messaging I heard was that I don't matter.
Yeah.
And then that affected everything. So here I am. I'm the one that's keeping a roof over her head and food on the table, and I'm, trying to support her as best I can. And she's fighting every minute of that. And every time she opens her mouth, I'm hearing like, yeah, whatever, stop. You don't matter. And once I understood that, it changed the dynamic. And
Mm.
wasn't even aware, So I think that those kinds of tools are really powerful, whether we use them openly with others or, to ourselves. So
Yeah.
I think it's getting those insights into other people's worlds in terms of, what's important to them. Where are they coming from? What negative experiences are showing up in how they're currently behaving? Yeah. I'd say a key one for connecting and relationships is really actively listening to understand, not just listening to respond.
Yeah.
I think we're all very guilty of that. And then I know I worked alongside with Carol for a lot of years, and we knew each other so well, and we were both inferential in our speaking style. So, I would hint and infer, and neither of us would say literally what we wanted the other one to do. And, we were aware of it, and we'd put it, okay, so what is it you really want me to do? And we'd laugh about it, but we'd have to sort of nudge each other to be more direct. So, if you find that you're avoiding saying what you really want, or setting a boundary, or you're just, making suggestions or hinting, but not literally saying what you need, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
So the listening and talking styles, do you listen to, but are you listening inferentially or literally? So I think one of the examples is, if I said I was thirsty, would you be compelled to go and get me a glass of water? Or would you just think, oh, she's thirsty? You know, how are we responding to other people?
And then you get mad because we didn't get you a glass of water.
Well,
It's the mind reading thing, right? I think people
yeah.
mind read all the time.
The
I don't know exactly what
hallucinations.
you're thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think one of the most important things, especially if you are going to have quite a close relationship, it could be with a work colleague, you know, your partner, your children, what have you, is find those pockets of time where you are in a good place and have the discussions around important things, whether it's to do with finances, whether it's to do with how to discipline, whether it's how do you, you know, how do you, or how can I know when you need space? When you don't want to hear something, what do you usually do? Like my ex-husband, he just used to walk away and not talk to me. And the problem was never solved. And I'm not going to talk to you about it now, but we need to talk about this. And then I would do it at a nice time and say, okay, are you open to a discussion about da? No, not going to talk about it. So, I think it's really important to have those discussions, and the same with your boss. When you go to your boss, okay, so you want me to do this deadline. What happens if for whatever reason I don't do it? What can we do? How do you, how will you let me know? And, just be really open and transparent.
Yeah. But it's also, I think, in this day and age, it's what we might mind read in terms of receiving a text communication. We add the tone of voice, we add everything to it, we add different meanings, and it can really trigger us. But and then we interpret it totally different from the meaning it was sent behind. So it's just yeah. Pick up the phone, have a conversation, speak to them.
Yeah. But I get that's weird from the young folk in my life. But I also want to just state that, it's okay to revisit something. Like, you don't need to respond in the moment, because I think, I tend to process things a little bit later. So I would be better to have, whatever that confrontation or conversation or chit chat, and then come back later with my thoughts. And because they're going to be much more well thought out than in the moment. And it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
I think people are afraid. I think that's a big issue with people.
But again, it's asking that question, though, isn't it, Liz? I mean, this is exactly right. I mean, I said this to my children. If they've done something wrong, like I remember my daughter, I told her not to do something, and she ended up doing it and breaking something. And the look on her face, and I said, you know what? We're not going to talk about it right now because I'm really angry. So tidy it up and we'll both come back together and we'll discuss it then. But right this minute is not the right time. And then we did, and ended up laughing about it. But and she paid for it, but there you go.
Well, but the point was there, right? She got the point.
Yeah, exactly.
And isn't that the whole the whole reason, the outcome? It's not to yell at them or punish them. It's to help them understand and to grow into the kind of person that we'd hope they could be, right? So,
but it's about building that trust and rapport. It's very, very important that if you say something that you are trustworthy in any form of relationship. And if you break that word, I mean, just going back as another example with my kids, I remember one of them said, "Mummy, I need to talk to you about something, but I need you to promise you won't get angry." And I said, I can't promise I won't get angry, but what I can promise you is that once you've told me, if I feel that I'm getting angry, then we will come back and discuss it in a few minutes. How's that? So they told me and said, right, let's take 5 minutes. What? And then went back and I handled it, better. But as I said, I didn't break their trust, and I wasn't going to say, no, I'm not going to get angry, and maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know what's coming, my way. So, yeah. Okay, so are there any other tools or strategies that people can put in place or keep in the back of their minds with regards to building that healthy relationship?
Stay curious, put the focus on them.
Yeah, what's that saying? We got 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should listen twice as much as we speak.
Yeah.
What would the world look like if we all did that, eh?
Hey.
Yeah.
So exactly.
I'm just thinking that if people want to be friendly and connect with me, first of all, it's say what you mean and mean what you say.
Yeah.
And the other one is do what you say you're going to do. So those are kind of my measurements, if you like. And when I feel let down, it's usually because somebody has told me they're going to do something and then it doesn't happen. And that I think, well, I can't be that important then.
Yeah.
We have different values, but those are my values. So
I think we also need to manage people's expectations. So including our own. So if if you're going to tell me, to your point, because I agree with you, if you tell me one thing and do something else, that's a problem. Or if you tell me you're going to do something and you fail to do it, then be open with me and tell me that. Say, hey, Liz, I expect it's going to take me 2 weeks to get this done. Great. If you get it done in a week, then even better. But if 2 weeks comes and it doesn't happen, then tell me. Then say, you know what? I ran into some unexpected things. I'm going to need a few more days. Like, manage and it doesn't have to be in a task, but manage expectations.
Yeah.
And I think expectations are the nails in the house of failure, or the expectations, set us up for disappointment, right?
Yeah.
When we have expectation that we don't voice, we're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
But that can also lead to some resentment and frustrations.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I've always felt this way as well, like you, Wendy and Liz. For me, it's about being honest. If you can't do something, if you're struggling, let me know. We can deal with this together. But if you don't keep your word, if you lie, if you're deceitful, those boundaries are in place for a reason. And I would never do something to somebody else that I would want done to me. So, I always look at those relationships and think, I might feel like you are deserving of that behavior, but I wouldn't want that back to me. And I'm not going to, disrespect myself by behaving that way. So
I know with coaching couples when they want to work on their relationship, I position it that as two individuals, they're fine. What does the relationship need? And what are they prepared to give? So what's in the relationship right now? And it could be values, could be caring, it could be sharing, it could be communication. What's on the periphery? And what's outside of the relationship that needs to come inside? So then they've got something tangible. It's like, okay, so, all right, we want that to come in here. Okay, so what can we do to make that happen? So it's more a conversation about what's missing in the relationship rather than an inadequacy in the blaming. You're not doing this. You don't say this. okay, so what's not being communicated, and what needs to be in place, so what's missing, and what can they each do to work towards it. So yeah, that's been a fascinating journey.
Yeah, and you've got to go, and you've got to revisit, and you've got to keep on having these conversations and be open to, life experiences change us. Kids come along and promotions and changing houses or changing countries and all the wonderful things that happen. But again, it can change the dynamic of our relationships at work and at home. So, be open to those conversations and get excited about what you enjoy. What do you want your relationship to look like? Sometimes you feel like your partner or your boss doesn't want the same things, but you haven't even spoken to them. And then you may be surprised, actually, we are after the same goal, the same, so make it happen.
Yeah. Be wary of the fear that comes up too when people feel very tentative. They get nervous to be open and to be honest because of whatever they seem to be afraid of. But if they really thought about it and broke it down, the only two things that I can see that really warrant perhaps some fear in our world is death and taxes, because those are the only two things that don't go away or can't change, right? So, um, you're not going to I'm not going to die, you're not going to die by me telling you that I didn't I didn't meet your expectation, or that I didn't live up to my word, or that I didn't, I said something I probably shouldn't have said, or I wasn't thinking it through, whatever that is. Just hold your nose and jump in if that's what it takes, because you do it a couple of times and you'll become more comfortable with that, which will allow you to show up more authentically, and you'll be happier with yourself. People will be happier with you because they'll realize that, you are who you say you are, and you do what you say you do and do.
Exactly. If you're happy with you, and I'm not talking about that egotistical, but if you like you like the way you treat people, you are going to attract so much more positive relationships, communication, so much more.
Yeah. And it's going to
Yeah.
be more consistent.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, what do I own? How can I step up and how can I be better and do better? So, okay, ladies, on that note, we're going to close. I would like to thank you both so very much. There will be an article coming around this topic as well, where I've got some of the NLP tips in there. And if you've got any comments, anybody, please pop them into the comment section, and myself, Liz, and Wendy will get back to you. Again, thank you very much. And on that note, I bid you all a very good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.